is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis coming to y'all with a quick video. I wanted to let you guys know I got some new merchandise available, not just t-shirt anymore. I got different type of t-shirts, different type of shirts and logos that you can purchase on my spread shirt, and also hoodies now. We have expanded and added more to the channel and more merchandise for the brand. Thanks for supporting. It will be in the description and the links will be in the comment section below. Thanks for helping me and supporting the movement. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis. I'm going to check out the video. What is good, YouTube? Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis come to y'all with a quick video. I did the most underrated players a while ago. I finally got to the most overrated players. This list was a lot harder than the most underrated players, so I'm about to go through all 30 teams from Milwaukee all the way to Phoenix and tell you who I personally feel and why I feel that they're overrated. This is all opinionated. This is not factual, so we're not going to always agree, or this is not how everybody feel. It might be how they play. It might be how their season went. It is correctable. They can always change from year to year, from month to month. But this season, these are the players I feel are a little overrated. Whether it's the price, how they play, injuries, or just not being effective with the team that they with this season. But it can change, and this is not set in stone. This is just a fun video that people wanted, and this is just my opinion, so it's not factual. I'm just going based off how I feel. So let's, with all that gone, we're going to go from Milwaukee. George Hill. They made a trade to get rid of Deladova to get George Hill. He's been to the NBA Finals. He played in big games, even with the Spurs and the Pacers, and he brings a veteran leadership to the Bucks, something that they needed. Even though Deladova was in the NBA Finals and actually won a championship, I didn't really think the swap was that impressive for either team. But honestly, George Hill has been okay for the Bucks, but he has never lived up to that trade since they ended up giving away Kawhi Leonard. He has been a solid starting point guard, but not really a franchise point guard, and never really got to that level. The best season he ever had was with the Jazz, and that's when he was more aggressive. And my biggest problem with George Hill is that he's so passive, and he just follows what the coach do. He doesn't ever play his game, and he still doesn't do that with the Bucks. Number 2, Kyle Lowry. He's always an all-star. He misses a lot of games. He doesn't play well in the playoffs most of the time, and that's just been history repeating itself for years. That's just my personal opinion. Jonathan Simmons has been underrated, and now after signing the contract with Orlando, he played well his first season. Couldn't really get going with Steve Clifford. He falls out of rotation, doesn't get the minutes, doesn't play the same. He goes to Philly, and now he doesn't really get enough impactful minutes. I liked him. I feel like he's underrated. I was happy when he got the contract with Orlando. It just hasn't fit him, and he just hasn't been able to figure it out since he has left San Antonio, which is unfortunate, but it happens. For Darren Collison, he always masquerades as a starting point guard, when in reality he's a backup. He can handle the job, but he ain't going to take you to the next level. He's not going to push you in playoff series. The Indiana Pacers need to upgrade the point guard position, but Darren Collison does just a good enough job to keep it. But we all know in reality they're going to have to replace him eventually. Number 5, Jason Tatum. He was a guy that everybody was talking about from the playoffs. The dunk on LeBron, beating the Bucks, still in a series against the Sixers, but he hasn't lived up to the hype in year number 2. Reggie Jackson, I love Reggie Jackson. I know him. He a brother. He's family. But after he got the contract, he helped the Detroit Pistons make it to the playoffs. They'll be making it to the playoffs his second time in his career as a starting point guard. But he didn't have the all-star caliber season I thought he was capable of. Reggie Jackson can give you 16 to 18 points and 6 assists. And if your team is winning like they was in the playoffs when at the time that the All-Star voting was going in, I thought that he had a chance. They didn't have that much help. Drummond is not that great of an offensive player, so I thought that Reggie Jackson would take the chance to take more shots, to be more aggressive, and play more of his game like he did in OKC when Russell went down. I haven't seen it, but he did get paid. He is a starter, and he hasn't lived up to the hype right now, even though they will be going to the playoffs. Allen Crabbe just hasn't lived up to the hype of the contract, but also never really played up to the contract either. So he has been overrated for Portland overrated for the Nets after they traded for him. He's basically salary filler at this point of his career. Hassan Whiteside went from being the guy that was a steal. Nobody saw him coming. He worked his ass off, got paid, and he hasn't. Nothing was ever the same after that. And it got to the point where he's coming off the bench now. Nine, Jonathan Isaac, he hasn't lived up to the hype of being a top pick. He is lanky. He is showing that he can shoot a little bit more, but I want to see more from him. He is young. He is lanky. He is athletic. He has tons of upside, but right now he's looking more like a rotation player than like a star. So he can change in the future, but that's how I feel now. For the Charlotte Hornets is Frank Kaminsky. He was supposed to be this guy that can really be a starting center and really be special. He has really became more of a role player, if anything else. Again, Wesley Johnson, a guy that has been bouncing around the league, has been able to find a home, and he's never been a sniper from three like we thought he would be. And he becomes the most overrated player on any team he goes to, it seems, because he either doesn't play, doesn't contribute, or don't play threes, or don't hit threes, or don't play good enough defense when you need him to. Torian Prince, I love his game, but he hasn't developed into anything. He was getting better every season. This year it stopped. Denzel Valentine, he has been suspect this year, injured, and really hasn't contributed that much. He seemed like a very exciting player. It seemed like he loves and has a lot of passion, but when it comes to hooping, he leaves a little bit more to be desired. For the Knicks is obviously DeAndre Jordan. I'm not a big DeAndre Jordan fan. His defense has not been great. His rebounding has been a little subpar. I expect him to rebound even more in New York since they don't have that many rebounders, in my personal opinion. But he has really seemed like he has become a solid player, not even a starter at this point, depending on what team he's on. Going into number 15, this is will be the Golden State Warriors. Jonas Jerebko was supposed to be a secret weapon to me, a guy that can stretch out the paint, hit threes, and be a difference maker coming off that bench. He hasn't lived up to the hype with the Golden State Warriors. It looked like a smart move. It looked like a move that a lot of people would sleep on. It hasn't really turned out to be that. Number 16 for the Nuggets is Paul Millsap. I'm a Millsap guy. You don't really, when you think about the Nuggets, you don't even really bring up Millsap. You don't even think about Millsap, and that's something I couldn't say about the Atlanta Hawks when he played there. When you thought about the Hawks, Millsap was the first thing to come to mind. Matter of fact, he was always an All Star since he had went to the Hawks, and since he ended this season with the Hawks, he was always an All Star. But when you think about him on Denver, no All NBA teams, no, not even close to making an All Star team, and you don't even bring them up when you think about Denver. You think about Gary Harris, Jamal Murray. You think about Jokic, but you don't really bring up Paul Millsap. That means he has fallen off a little bit. And even though I do root for him and I do like him, he hasn't really worked out in Denver the way people thought. Maurice Harkless has never been able to become a borderline starter. 1 minute he's starting, 1 minute he's injured, 1 minute he's hot, 1 minute he's not. 1 minute he can knock down threes. Next thing you know, he can't make one to save his life. He has been a model of inconsistency for the Trailblazers, and I think they're gonna have to get rid of him and get somebody else that's more consistent in the future. Um, 18, this is going to be Eric Gordon. He has had a mediocre season or terrible season, depending on how you look at it. He had a rough start, balanced it out, fell off a little bit, got back hot. He takes a lot more tougher shots. He's not the playmaker he used to be. He's not the driver and finisher he used to be. It seems like all he wants to do is shoot a bunch of threes. And if he's not doing that, he really doesn't bring much to the table, which is a little disappointing because I thought when he got picked up that he would win Sixth Man of the Year. He did it, and now he has changed his whole game to just chucking up threes from 30 to 40 feet. And that's really about it. I don't like that. 19, Jay Crowder for the Utah Jazz. He hasn't really been great since he left Boston. He was a steal in Dallas. He had a great fit with Boston. Ever since then, his career went to the worst to me, even though he still is a quality player. Shea Gilgeous has got a lot of hype because he ended up being a starter. A lot of us felt like he wasn't going to be a starter because of his body, because he didn't have a jump shot. He proved that he was a starter, but I'd rather have Patrick Beverly. And honestly, when I'm closing, I'd rather have Beverly and Lou Williams. But he has overachieved for a rookie, but he came back down to earth the last couple months. 21, Patrick Well, the thing about Patrick, I feel like for the Thunder, he hasn't really became that stretch four that they thought he would be, or even that stretch five. He can hit jump shots. He can defend depending on who what lineup is out there and who he's guarding. But he hasn't become a two-way player. He hasn't really became a consistent three-point shooter. And he was supposed to be a great underrated pickup because he can play with Westbrook and Paul George. That has been furthest thing from the case. 22, Jakob Poeltl. He hasn't really got the minutes. He hasn't really got the playing time. I thought that this would be a great pickup for the Spurs because they needed some youth. They needed some excitement, some athleticism, some size. They let go of Paul Gasol, and LaMarcus has been there. They have had everything that they have needed. But Jakob has not been the steal. He hasn't been underrated. He just has been okay for the Spurs. And that's why he's a little disappointing to me because I thought he would be better, especially with Greg Popovich. Harrison Barnes, I liked him going to Dallas because it's basically like he chasing the dream. He gets to get the big contract. He gets a chance to prove that he can be the guy. He gets a chance to prove that he can be a starter and get quality minutes. He showed that he couldn't be a franchise guy. He couldn't be a number one option. He's better as a role player, and he hasn't really been able to be a sniper from the spot up three. Or a good guy that can take the players off the dribble and create his own shot consistently. He was a good pickup for the Kings, but he hasn't been that answer that you think would take them over the top. They was already in the playoff race. They was almost as the eighth seed. They made the trade for Harrison. He was supposed to be the guy that takes them over the top and gives them that three that can do multiple things and create his own shot, hit some threes every blue moon, be a solid rebounder, be a solid defender, and give them that championship experience. It hasn't really worked out like that in Sacramento. The opposite happened. They got worse. And even though they are 500, we thought that they'd be a lot better, especially with the acquisition of Harrison Barnes and some other players. But Harrison hasn't lived up to the hype and played that well for them. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, Andrew Wiggins, I think that's the unanimous decision. We all gave up on Wiggins so far. He hasn't been aggressive. He hasn't been attacking. He doesn't try to take over games. His three-point shot still ain't what it should be. And it seems like he's just not happy in Minnesota. And for him to be the rookie of the year, rookie sophomore MVP, averaging 20 points a game, multiple seasons, and to become nothing but a role player even after Jimmy Butler left, which is more opportunities for him to attack and be more aggressive and have more shots. The opposite has happened. Lonzo Ball hasn't been what we thought. He is a solid defender. He hasn't fit with LeBron as well as we thought. He hasn't been able to get that three ball to fly and knock down a lot with the Lakers. I still feel like he can be a quality player. I still feel like he can be a starter. But so far, his career with the Lakers hasn't been well. He hasn't lived up to that number two overall pick. Everybody felt like he had to be number two. He's definitely going to the Lakers, but he has been injured a whole lot since he has been drafted. And honestly and truthfully, he hasn't lived up to being a number two pick so far. Even in Summer League, he was the MVP going into the season, and then he had a decent season, and his sophomore year hasn't been as good as we thought it would be going into this year. Stanley Johnson has been a bust, and he hasn't really played that well in New Orleans after he got traded. It seems like the Pistons finally gave up on him, and he hasn't really used as a chip on the shoulder or pushed them to be better. I feel like Stanley Johnson can play, but he hasn't really been able to fix any of his problems and shortcomings, and that's been a detriment of his career. 28. Um, uh, this one is a little tough for me. When you really think about this pick I had for um, the Memphis Grizzlies, it was a lot of players to me that has been disappointing, whether it's Bruno Caboclo or certain players. I really went with Kyle Anderson. I feel like Kyle Anderson, with the contract extension that he got with them and taking them away from the Spurs and feeling like they need a three since Parsons hasn't panned out, he can handle the ball. He can create his own shot. You can run some type of offense through him, minor offense running through him, but he hasn't really been able to live up to that contract that they gave him, and he hasn't really played up to it. He has just been a solid, okay player. and they thought that he can be more, and that's why they took him away from the Spurs and gave him that contract. They feel like he'd be a difference maker. He'll fit right in, and it has been the opposite. And it's unfortunate because I was rooting for him, but he hasn't really been what they thought he would be, or even close to it. Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Mavericks, he has been worse than he was with the Knicks. With the Knicks, he was proving that he can get you buckets, he can knock down shots, he can create his own shot. With the Mavericks, he has come all the way down. He has been less efficient, less effective, and it doesn't even seem like he fits what they're trying to do. And he can't knock down threes consistently either off the ball. Has not had a great season with the Mavericks, and I don't think he has a long-term um, career with them. I think they're going to try to get rid of him quickly because he doesn't mesh what they're trying to do, and he doesn't really fit well with Luka. And that's the franchise. That's their starting player. That's their franchise player. And if you can't fit in with him, you're going to have to be gone. And obviously, 30th, the Phoenix Suns, the worst team in the NBA. Josh Jackson can't really score, can't really shoot, not a great defender, not a great rebounder like we thought he would be. Hasn't really been able to have a go-to move. Hasn't been really able to develop a go-to shot or even something that can get him going. He can't shoot mid-range, can't shoot threes. Not the greatest finisher, and he's excellent in transition. But their defense is so terrible that they don't have enough of those opportunities. He has really been a guy that had a huge amount of potential. The size, the body, the speed, the athleticism, the motor, and it hasn't translated into the NBA so far. He still has time. It's not over for him, but he looks like a bust right now, and it doesn't really look like he's improved at all, really, from last year, which is a detriment on his career. Still has time to get it together. Still have a little bit of hope in him because he still has some good tools. But if he never uses tools and never develop anything, whether a go-to move or a shot that he can make, or even if he can play off the ball, he could be at least a 3-and-D player at worst, which is still a possibility. But with Kelly Oubre, T.J. Warren, and obviously Mikal Bridges, it's looking like somebody's going to have to go. Somebody's going to have to come off the bench. And it's looking like Josh Jackson is looking like the one that's suspendable right now. And that means his time in Phoenix could be over, which could be a good thing, or it could be the ending of his career. We'll see what happens, though. Let me know what you guys think about the pick. Did I miss somebody? Did I underlook at somebody? Did I overrate somebody? Was I wrong about something? This is all my opinion. This is all just personal opinion. So you might disagree, you might not agree, or you might do agree. If you enjoyed the video, took it for what it is as a fun video, and just letting you know how I personally feel, let me know in the comment section who you think is overrated, who you think is underrated, and give me your list and let me know what you think. Check out my website at analysisplayground.com. Link in the description, comment section below. Check out my Facebook page at analysisplayground.com. Link in the description, comment section below. Like on Facebook to show support. Thanks for everybody that likes on Facebook. Thanks for everybody that likes the videos. Thanks for everybody that commenting, staying active in them comment sections. I respond and I read to comments, and I read every comment, and I try to respond to the ones that I can. Also, check out my older videos. I do discussions and fun videos just like this. Top 5 lists, top 10 lists. I also do buyouts and trade talks. I also cover the preseason. I also cover Summer League. I also cover the NBA draft. I make breakdowns. I make tributes. I cover all things NBA. I enjoy making these videos. You guys enjoy watching. That's why I continue to go. Quinn Wade Basketball Analysis, I'm gone. And let me know who you feel like the most overrated players is. Did I underrate somebody? Did I sleep on somebody? Or did I miss somebody? Or do you think the list is a little accurate? Whatever you feel, let me know in the comment section below.